I'd like to start out with a statement that 50% of the kids that are in 7th grade this year, when they enter the job market, half of the occupations that they're going to work at haven't even been invented yet. And I say that because of the technology that we're talking about. The stuff that we use to prepare this talk, cell phones, internet, laptops, and the topic of the conversation, which is genomics, a lot of that stuff wasn't even invented when my kids were in 7th grade, so I truly believe this statement. I'm going to go through a little bit of an outline, what I'm going to visit with you about. I'm going to give you a little brief knowledge of our program so you kind of understand what we're doing. And then I'm going to talk to you about the incorporating the genomic EPDs into our program and maybe what they can do for you. And then I'm going to discuss with you some of the concerns that I've got, and we'll discuss that as we go through it. The goals for our program at home basically are to make our customers money. And the best thing that we can do is to understand their goals. I put the utils conversation at the bottom of this slide. When I was in college, there was a professor that talked about utils that was a measurement of a level of satisfaction. So in other words, different customers have different goals or different utils, and the things that we're trying to do is to provide satisfaction in a variety of different ways. A little bit about our program. We're a diversified farm and livestock operation in south central Kansas. We have corn, soybeans, wheat, irrigated and dry land, and kind of fills in with the livestock program. The top of our program, I was going to talk a little bit about the history. I'm the 6th generation of our operation and actually have the original deed from the U.S. government when my ancestors homesteaded the half section or the quarter where we live. It's a picture of our family there. My middle son graduated this year at K-State. Like I said, we're a family operation. My parents are in the picture and are a huge integral part. And then our oldest daughter and her husband live about 3 hours away, and they put embryos in for us, and they have a very successful farm family operation as well. And then our youngest daughter will be a senior at K-State this fall. I guess one thing that I was going to point out, in 2010, our operation was awarded the Beef Improvement Federation Seed Stock Producer of the Year, which if you ever had the chance to go to BIF, it's a real exciting time if you want to talk about performance and genetics. A lot of these things, when we developed this PowerPoint, we were going to bring in here at one time, but our program consists of just under 400 bred females. I like to turn our pedigrees, or not pedigrees, but our generations. I feel if we're going to make improvement, we've got to get the same genetics on the top and the bottom side of the pedigree to provide consistency for our customers. And then we use the embryos and the different things. We do have a bull sale in the spring. Started it about 8 or 10 years ago. Last couple of years we've sold about 100 bulls. We do the genomic enhanced EPDs on all the bulls in the sale. And I think we were the first of any breed of any country, I think for that matter, to do 100% of the bulls that we walk through the sale. And I'll explain why here in a little bit. We do sell all the 5-year-old cows with heifer calves. So last week, before we came up here, we ultrasounded and sexed the pregnancies of all the 4-year-olds. So now I know who's going to be in next spring's sale, and then we can start getting those pictures and get that stuff done. And then we do sell a group of commercial heifers sold in groups of 5. this slide, the question, what is DNA doing for the industry? A year ago, Dad and I were given the opportunity to go to Monsanto's headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri, and they have DeKalb corn seed and a few other brand names. But currently, the U.S. corn yield is 160 to 160 bushel the acre. And they predict by the year 2030, corn yield will average 300 bushel. So that's 16 years away, and they're almost going to double the predicted corn yield. And they're doing that with almost exclusively DNA work. It's really cool what those guys are doing. They'll chip the seed, they've got these machines that chip millions of seeds per day, and then they put the seeds into a storage. If they find the seed or in the DNA that they test that's got the genetics they want, they go pull that seed out, grow it, and it's just amazing at what they're doing. And so I think that was something that I thought was important to show that what other agriculture industry is going to do with this DNA technology. This is a slide that deals with the Canadian young sires for the Holstein breed. And I don't know if everybody can read that, but basically the red bars are early in the years 2000 through 2004. And this is for the lowly heritable trait, it's the lifetime profit index. They were making approximately 109 index points of improvement per year the first 4 years of the years 2000. From 2005 through 2008, they were making 210 points. And then since they started using genomic enhanced EPDs, they've jumped that to 445 points per year of improvement. And so that's on a lowly heritable trait that I think kind of demonstrates what some of the other breeds or the other industries have done with what we have now access to. So my question is, and I think maybe the first thing I wanted to explain, what's the difference between what I would call for this talk a traditional EPD versus a genomically enhanced EPD. Traditional EPD, I'm going to call this what you guys have been using for years and years, and I'm going to compare the difference between the two. A lot of information goes into the traditional EPD. Obviously, at first, this box on the side has got the pedigree. Obviously, you guys know all about that. The next thing is in this is the ratios. And I think I want to point that out, that when we take birth weights, yearling weight, ultrasound, whatever traits it is, we're not making an EPD based on the individual weight that we send in. So I'll talk birth weight just for ease. So the birth weight doesn't make the EPD, but the comparison of that birth weight within the contemporary group that calf was born in. So everything being set at 100 for average, the ratio difference between average is what makes an EPD. And a lot of people, I think, don't understand that, and I think it's very important to understand how that works. The other thing, it goes into a traditional EPD, is you've got to be linked, or your herd has to be linked comparable to somebody else. So in other words, if you and I use the same bull, and I'm in Kansas and you're in Canada, we are linked, okay? So your herd and my herd have a common thread. Now if we don't, but a third person has used a common bull between the three of us, then we're still linked. I had a very, a very highly respectable gentleman and his son come and visit with me in Denver one year, and we were talking about ribeye size on ultrasound. And he was looking at my data, and he said that his yearling or his ribeye size was basically the same as mine, but his EPDs were just in the tank. And he wanted to know why. Well, he had been in his program for many, many years. His customers were all commercial herd, and none of his genetics were out in the rest of the registered population. And so he was kind of like out on Gilligan's Island, and nobody was able to compare themselves to him or vice versa. So his EPDs were sort of, they were usable, but they weren't really accurate compared to the rest of the industry, because he was kind of on an oasis. And so he wanted to know how to fix it. And well, there was 3 ways. I suggested to either get some semen out into another registered program, or he used a high accuracy bull. But anyway, I wanted to point out that's how those work. The genetically enhanced EPDs used a lot of those same pieces of information, but they're going to add the data that you're going to get from the DNA when you send that in. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at those SNPs or the markers, and I'm going to say, let's go talk birth weight again, so that the birth weight is influenced by the presence or absence of those markers. And if they've got the markers, say, for a low birth weight, that goes into your EPD and affects your EPD, okay? And so it's going to go either way. The importance of this is it's very, very important to understand you don't have to have a ratio, and you don't have to be linked anymore. And and I think this is where it's very important, that if you don't have a large contemporary group, this makes a lot of sense for you, because you are now able to have the same accuracies. Let's say you got 2 bulls, or maybe 1 bull, I don't know. Say you've got 1 bull in your calf crop, and you can then do the DNA work and get the same accuracy as someone, let's say that, and I'm not sure if I should say a number because I don't know the honest answer, but if somebody had 20 bulls in their contemporary group, it's potentially possible that you're going to get the same accuracy with your 1 bull as he will with his 30, because you've taken out the ratio information because you don't have any, okay? So that is really important, and you don't have to be linked. The other thing I think it's going to be important, and Jeff Lees and I were talking about this earlier, is and I may step on a toe here, and not Jeff's toe, but these are more transparent, okay? Because you don't have to have what I call contemporary management. A lot of people complain about EPDs, and I'll show you some graphs here in the end that I think EPDs will do what you want them to do. It's your decision to manage them. But what I call contemporary management, if someone, basically it's cheating. If you manage the contemporary groups to where you have bulls that look better than they really should, that's how EPDs get mixed up, okay? That's how EPDs don't work. But the DNA is more transparent because there's not that influence. The other thing that's important to know, the genomic EPDs affect, or the DNA markers, they affect the EPD on low accuracy. So in other words, a young calf that doesn't have any progeny tested, the genomic influence will affect his numbers. And as the sire, as your bull gets more progeny, and that accuracy gets up to 50%, the genomic part of the EPD has less and less until the point it has no effect. Which this is what we want. I mean, a bull's progeny is a whole lot more accurate than his own or his mother's or his sire's. And so as we get closer to 50% accuracy, this is what's really going to, because I've heard people complain that they tested one of their herd bulls that was 60% accurate and the numbers didn't change. Well, I'm glad they didn't. He helped recalibrate the test and make sure it's right, but the bull's progeny are more important than this test. This next chart shows if you have a genomic EPD of a non-parent calf, okay, so you've got a 3-month-old calf that you do the genomic EPDs on, you're going to get a new EPD with a higher accuracy level. And that accuracy is represented in these numbers here. So for example, calving ease, your non-parent bull calf now has an EPD as if he had 33 calves registered on the ground, okay? His birth weight is going to be influenced as if he now had 7 calves on the ground and all the way through. So you get down to IMF, marbling, it has as if that calf has already sired 3.3 calves that have gone through yearling weight and taken all of the carcass data through ultrasound. So these numbers are what you're going to get. And those numbers will always be changing as we make the testing more accurate. These numbers will go up. Okay, this next part is honestly the most important part of what I'm going to show you. And I'm afraid it's all going to come in at once, and I was hoping we could make it come in one line at a time. But what I've done is basically something that I wanted to know myself, and honestly, preparing for this talk, I learned more about what's going on with this than I hope I can explain it to where you guys will understand it as well. But we had, from 2 years ago when we did all the bulls in our sale, we had 6 of those bulls that we used in our program last year, and we now have calves on the ground, okay? So what I've done is the 6 bulls will be listed across the top. So the bull ID number Z22, that's actually a bull that Howard Crittenden bought from us. He's a wonder son. Z67 is a Kennedy son out of a ribeye daughter. Z109 is a logic out of a progress daughter. Z123 is another logic. Z149 is a progress grandson. And 20Z is a bull that we bought, okay? And what I've done here, this is the traditional EPD for all of these bulls when they were first registered. So I got the calves registered at 4 months of age, and this is what their birth weight EPD was. And then about Christmas time, right before, it was actually after Denver Stock Show, we stand in the hair on all of these bulls, and we got the first round of genomic EPDs. And these bulls moved their birth weight, and you can see what happened. This bull went from a 1.9 to a 0.6. This bull didn't move much. This bull went down. This bull didn't move a lot. This bull went down. And this bull, my record system, we can't go back and get EPDs on bulls that we didn't raise, so my computer system wasn't able to do that. Okay, then our sale was on a Friday, and on a Monday, the American Hereford Association announced a recalibration of the genomic EPDs. So 2 days after our sale, this bull went down again to a -1.2. This bull went up to a 2.1, and you can see how these bulls all moved, okay? That recalibration is basically, when they started this program, they wanted a minimum of 2,000 bulls with accuracies of 50% or higher tested, okay? So they could test those bulls to see if the genomics matched what actually the bulls sired, okay? In this second run of genomic EPDs, they actually added more than 2,000 head. So they upped that number of bulls, and therefore they got it more accurate. Okay, then this spring, this is the actual progeny ratio of the calves out of these different bulls. And keep in mind, 100 is average. So this bull ratioed 92%. So in other words, he's 8% below average. And there was about 20 some calves in each one of these in each one of these sire groups. I think the Zeppelin bull, we only had half a dozen out of him. And there was basically 6 to 22 calves out of each one of these bulls. Okay, then last week, 2 weeks ago, the American Hereford Association came out with the new run of the EPDs. This would be not just the genomic EPDs, but they actually incorporated all of the birth weights and all of the information that we sent in. So now this bull's birth weight went down to a -3.4. This bull went up to a 3.4. And what I want to show you is the difference between those two bulls' calves was 8% average here, and so there was 15% difference between these two bulls' calves' birth weights. And you can see the difference that was represented here. And in the next slide, I'll show you, we put it into bars to show you the trend. And what I want you to see, and we'll use this bull here as an example, his birth weight changed when he got the first genomic EPD. The trend was going down. The actual progeny was below average, and then his EPD went on down. So the genomic EPDs were moving him down, okay? All right, so this is a bar graph to visually show you what these calves did, or what these bulls' progeny did. So this Z22, he was going down with the genomic EPDs, so they were sort of trending him that way. The progeny proved it, and then his birth, and that's exactly what we needed to do. I think that I know that the people that work on these genomic EPDs, they temper the movement just a little bit. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys probably listen to the U.S. crop reports when the government sends out, they may want to move the corn yield 10 bushel, but they don't want to shock the market, so they move it halfway. At least that's what some people think. But anyway, they temper the movement a bit. And that's what these genomic EPDs, they started trending those bulls the correct way. And this to me is really exciting because it actually proves that we really have something here. Okay, so then what the next thing we did to show you was we had 120 heifers that we don't do the genomic EPDs. Down home it costs us $85 a test. So I didn't want to spend $120 to $85 on all 120 heifers. And then we did do all of the 98 bulls. Okay, keep in mind when I show you these next traits, these heifers, their sires were genomically enhanced. Most of their grandsires on the cow side were genomically enhanced. So we've really built a lot of accuracy into their pedigree without really spending the money on the heifers, okay? Okay, what we did here, and I have to give my son all the credit on this graph because he came home from college and helped figure all this out, because what I was going to show you wasn't going to look very good. But what we did here was we took all of these heifers with the non-DNA data and we put them for yearling weight. This is for yearling weight with the poorest yearling weight heifer, EPD, here, and we sent them with the best yearling weight EPD heifer this direction. And what I was wanting to find was, did the EPDs work? Did they really show us what we were wanting to do? So this is the actual slope line of those same heifers ranked the same way, and this is what their actual yearling weight was. And I don't know anything about statistics, but we did. If this slope is parallel to this slope, then we did what we needed to do. The EPDs actually predicted accurately over that group of heifers the correct way that they were going to be ranked. Okay, this is the bulls. These bulls had the yearling weight genomic EPDs, and the slope is very, very similar. Now keep in mind, that's not real sharp of a slope, but the goal of our program at home is to sell 100 bulls that are all the same, okay? So I would be sad if I was selling these bulls and we had a large variability in our yearling weight EPD on our bulls, because then our customers wouldn't be able to get as good a product. So this slope isn't a lot, but it's basically the way it works. And then this is the yearling weight EPD. And the next slide I'll show you is what we did with IMF. We did the same thing. This is the heifers with no genomic EPDs. This is the poorest IMF heifer to the best. This is the ultrasound measurement with the slope, and you can see how parallel they are. This is the same thing with the bulls, and actually, in fact, these bulls, the slope on this doesn't fit, in my opinion, quite as well as it does here with their EPDs. And I can't really explain that, but I think the thing to take home out of this is the EPDs did their job. The EPDs, we've always been told, over 100 head, if you have the two groups of cows, you breed two different bulls over 100 head, this bull's yearling weights are going to be better than this bull's yearling weights, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, so why use them? I use them to provide our customers with a better selection tool. I feel it gives our cattle more accuracy, and we can also make more rapid improvement. And I think maybe in the future, the best thing that these things are going to be used for is lowly heritable traits. What's in the future? I guess my honest answer is I feel like right now we're driving around in a Model A, and I think in a few years we may be able to drive a Corvette. I think the things that we're going to be able to use are really, really going to be fun in the future. I read an article, I think Monday before Vera and I came up here. They're saying that the heritability of the healthfulness of beef that we're producing, I think the iron content in beef is 54% heritable. And so they were already predicting that someday we'll be selecting based on DNA how to improve the human nutrition value of the beef that we're producing. So those are already some things that when we made this slide, we already found some updates how fast this program is going to move. I guess some questions that I've got, that I've always questioned, do we know, let's say these genes are there and what Stephen talked about, do we know, okay, the gene marker says that there's a gene there for high growth, but do we know enough to know that someplace on the genome there isn't another gene that inhibits that one from working? And the best thing I can show you on that is I know I've got a gene to grow hair, but there's another gene someplace that's making it, inhibiting it from working. So I guess I think I think that there's, and there's probably a lot of smart people that are figuring this out. But and then the other question, a lot of the professors are promoting that we use these on our heifers more so than our bulls, because our bulls will eventually become more highly accurate. And the heifers that we're using now, in order to get the same accuracy, a cow's going to have to be about a 10-year-old cow before we can get the same accuracy as we can get with one calf crop out of a bull. Okay, so that is one of the traits. I'm not sure what I'm going to do on our deal, but I know I don't really want to spend $10,000 if I already have it. So that's my question for myself. And then I guess if you guys have any questions, I'd sure guarantee you I don't know the answers, but we can sure talk about them if you have anything.